Hi, everyone. So I did my speaking and listening plan for my Integrated 9 math class. So in this group size, there are 24 students. The class is 90 minutes, and it is made up of all ninth graders. So the subject or topic that I looked at was writing algebraic expressions, which is used in both our integrated classes, our algebra concept classes, and our Alg 1. So the standards that we looked at was model and solve real-world and mathematical problems by using and connecting numerical, algebraic, and graphical representations, writing expressions in equivalent forms to solve problems. So my objectives were given 6 algebraic expressions orally, students would be able to write the equivalent expression with no more than one incorrect response. Given 10 algebraic expressions written, students will be able to orally respond equivalent expressions with no more than 3 incorrect responses. Given 10 algebraic expressions orally, students will be able to recognize the equivalent expressions without any errors. So the materials that I would need for this, I have a PowerPoint to teach the key terms and definitions for this topic. Obviously with the PowerPoint, I need to project it somehow, and I have a smartboard and a pen, which is really nice because the kids love to use it, and allows me to make lessons more interactive for them. I would also need 24 addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, key term matching sheets. Students would use that, and then they would go up to the board and help me fill it out on the smartboard. Also, they would need 24 guided note sheets. I feel guided notes help students a lot, especially the ESL students. It allows them to focus more on the material that I'm teaching rather than worrying about having to copy all the notes. I need 24 whiteboards. I use whiteboards often in my class. Dry erase markers, 24 of those, and erasers. I need 1 list of algebraic expressions, 10 matching activities, 12 piles of algebraic expressions written on 10 index cards, and 24 to get out the door sheets. Okay, so before it, students would need to know what symbols represent addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. They would also need to understand that variables are letters that are used to represent unknowns in algebra. Students would also need to understand numeric expressions. Students need to know the key terms, variable, constant, coefficient, and exponent. Students need to know how to simplify expressions using order of operations. So quick outline of what the whole lesson is going to be is we're going to first learn key terms associated with our 4 operations and key terms of algebraic expressions. We'll learn how to write expressions when read the expression, how to express algebraic expressions orally, so how to read them. Well, read them, I would say them, not read them. In math, we say things, but how to recognize algebraic expressions and expanded form when shared in both written and oral formats. So vocabulary, it's there pretty much. Basically, what I need students to understand is which of these words mean which of the 4 operations, and also they need to understand that an algebraic expression is an expression that contains both numbers and letters without an equal sign. Okay, so overview of the lesson. Pretty much a lot of my lessons are pretty much laid out the same. I always begin the lesson with a PDN that will either review a topic that's similar, so it builds upon, it's going to be something the students would use in today's lesson, but it's something a little smaller, so it's something that will reference back to something they should have already known. So with this, I ask students to complete the PDN and then use Think, Pair, Share to share their responses with their classes and discuss what their answers would be, discuss any differences, why they thought it was, stuff like that. Activities like this usually go well in my classes. I tend to pair bilingual students with some of the ESL students, so they can sometimes have the discussion in Spanish, and then the student, the lower level ESL student, if called upon, will of course ask the other student how to say something, but for the most part, my lowest level is, I only have 1 ESL 1 in the class. Most of them are ESL level 2, so they have some basic language skills. So for the development of the lesson to begin, the lessons, students will work with a partner to match operations with the word. So students will discuss what operation the word or phrase best describes. So they'll describe, I'll give them a word or a phrase and they'll say, is it addition, subtracting, multiplication, or division? They'll discuss that with a partner. I will then have them come up to the board, drag and drop the word into their corresponding operation. For the next part, we will review key terms again. We did learn these terms before, but because these words, many of these students don't recognize, they haven't seen them before, I tend to go over them. So they are variable, coefficient, exponents, and making sure they recognize what they look like. So the next thing I'll do, which should take about 5 minutes, I will provide students with a definition and example of an algebraic expression. So I need to explain to them that an algebraic expression must have at least one letter. Okay, algebraic makes that an expression contains a letter, where the difference between our numeric expressions that we talked about before when we were typing, doing our order of operations, numeric expressions only contain numbers, hence numeric. I will also then provide them a list of 5 expressions, and students will discuss with their partner whether it is algebraic or not. You'll see those expressions there. I would post them up on a PowerPoint. Students will have the discussion, and then I'll allow students to discuss with me whether they think it's algebraic or not. The next thing I'll ask my students to do as a whole is to practice writing algebraic expressions. So one of the biggest things is students need to be able to, as I read an expression, is be able to, write it down apparently. So they have to be able to listen to what it is that I am saying. So they need to, for instance, if I read the sum of 10 in a number, they must be able to hear the word sum and recognize that it represents a plus sign. 10 is the 0, and a number is used to represent a variable. Obviously, they can use a different variable for x. I tend to use x all the time. My students tend to use x all the time. That'll be the first part to practice that, their listening skills. The next thing I'll do is to practice the listening skills. I will have students get a whiteboard, a marker, and eraser. They'll work individually for this task, only because it's very good if they are able to listen to the expression themselves without having discussion with someone else. So I will read the expression 3 times. Students will then listen to the expression and be able to go ahead and provide me with what the expression is on the whiteboard. They'll hold it up. I will tell them if they're right or wrong, and by using a thumbs up, thumbs down. For the most part, students like this because it provides them with immediate feedback. So it's a good formative assessment. It's able to tell me if I need to reteach it. Usually students love this, and it's something that I can quickly differentiate for students. If they need something easier or more difficult, it's quick to do. I can do it at a drop of a hat. Next, I will review students how to read algebraic expressions. So we're doing the reverse. So they will take my place then I will take theirs. Basically is what we're doing. So we're switching spots of what I was just doing. So for instance, I will go ahead and provide them with the equation 5m minus 6, which they should be able to read to me. We will practice writing that's 6 less than 5 times m, or 6 less than 5 times a number, or a variable, whatever. There's different references, as long as they reference something similar to that. With a lot of these algebraic expressions, it's very open-ended. I could use less than different ways. I could use a minus instead. The difference. What's kind of nice about it is that they get to use different words that they're more familiar with, and that there's more than one possible right answer. The next thing I do, I will again get them with partners. I like partners here because it allows me to pair students together based on their ability levels of CDT results. So I know basically where my students stand when it comes to algebraic expressions based on the CDT I give them in the beginning. So what I'll do is the students will work together to practice reading, speaking, and writing the algebraic expressions. Students will alternate reading and writing the algebraic expression while the partner, so I will read the expression while the two Sorry, excuse me. So partner one will read the expression while partner two is writing it, and switch roles back and forth. So these are an example of some that I would give my students. Obviously, I can add more, take away if time depends on it, provide more difficult ones if needed. Pretty quick to do and alternate if I need to. To close the lesson, I tend to do a take it out the door, so this provides immediate feedback to me whether the students were able to comprehend the material. So to do this, I would read algebraic expressions. Students would have to listen to it and be able to write it down. The next, I would walk around to each individual student. On a whiteboard, I would hold up an expression and they would have to go ahead and say that expression to me using our new algebraic terms that we just learned. And I would provide a score on my sheet on a scale of 1 to 4. So accommodations, differentiation, do it all the time. Feel like I accommodate more now than ever, especially for this class because I have such differentiation, such differences in levels, especially between ESL students. So when I can adjust questions, again, I mentioned it a few times, flexible group, and like I said, I mentioned it before, based on their scores, and I changed this up. I can also provide manipulatives to the students, both ESL and IEP, a key chart that they're able to recognize, so plus that they minus division and multiplication, what are some key words, so they're able to recognize them and have a reference to that. So like I said, formative assessment, whiteboards, students working together, I would walk around and observe them, take it out the door, great formative. For a summative assessment, I would provide a quiz after the lesson to determine their understanding of being able to write the algebraic expressions that are read. I will also then determine their understanding of being able to say the algebraic expression verbally using key terms and vocabulary. Okay, so that's my lesson. A lot of my lessons, again, are very similar to this. The layout of them, speaking and listening, I don't really feel like I can't really say I use a lot. I probably do more than I'm realizing. Overall, I hope the lesson was okay.